not too late to change your life. The story's not over, the ending is mine. Whatever it takes.
This takes us to the can you get, you know, big and shredded? Can you burn fat and gain muscle? It's a confusing area, this, because there are going to be points where yes, you can burn fat and you can gain muscle, but they're finite times, and it's usually in line with people being new to the gym or new to a consistent diet, or both hand in hand. What can happen is you can often have a bad diet, and then you can get that diet sorted and become consistent, and all of a sudden give your body what it needs to optimize, and that can create both a spike in muscular growth and fat loss, because you get a double whammy of the muscles wanting to grow and not being able to because they weren't supported in terms of the macro balance and calories overall, but then also you get the boost in metabolism from more support from a better macronutrient and calorific breakdown. So you get that kind of double whammy of an increased metabolic activity plus more support for the muscle to allow it to grow. So you get fat loss plus muscle gain at the same time. But that obviously then levels out and plateaus off, because the variables that were holding it back, which was the diet and the consistency. So once the initial benefit of that, wears off, that kind of spike where that once was holding you back, now not anymore, it'll bring you up to the level of where you should have been anyway, but you were held back because of those variables. I hope that makes sense. Then it comes back down to the time and the work and the consistency. So once that occurs, that's when obviously you stop gaining that muscle and burning fat at the same time, because if you're in a deficit you can't keep gaining muscle because the calories don't support it, and if you're in a surplus you can't keep burning fat because that initial metabolic jump that has occurred will level out, and then again the calories become in excess. Then it's a matter of putting those excess calories to use where they're needed, and not what your goal, which is to build muscle. And again it comes down to the balance of your macros and determining whether you function better from a high fat or higher carb diet in terms of how you look day to day and how you feel, but two, in terms of realizing that again you can't put on 4 pounds of muscle in a week. It's biologically impossible. Even a drug user can't put on that amount of muscle in a short time. It's just not possible. If you're putting on in a month somewhere between 6 and 10 pounds, I guarantee you it's not muscle. There's maybe going to be a pound and a half, 2 pounds, and the rest of it's going to be additional water weight from the extra intake of carbohydrates. Then if you're on creatine on top of that, again more water held in the muscle means more water weight. And then 3, finally, the one you don't want, fat. And then by the time you realize it's fat, with most people it's too late and the fat's on. Then they're going to have to go into a deficit to get rid of the fat. And this is where you get these yo-yo people that never really find that happy balance. And they're the same people that don't understand that you can look lean and grow, because they've never managed it. But they've never managed it because they've never done it correctly. They haven't researched it properly and don't understand it. So rather than learn and understand it, what they try and do is blame the fact that everyone else in the world must be taking drugs to look that way. And that's just simply not the case. And no matter how often we prove it and how often we show people for free how to do it, they just can't be bothered. They don't understand the timeline. They think everything comes down to a 8 to 12 week magic number diet, and that's not the case. You're talking more like 12 months for gaining. And that is, once you get that in your head and once you understand that, your life will become much more realistic, and so will your expectations. So when I first start on a gain, I may put on 4 pounds in a month, but I know that 2 pounds of that is going to be water because of the increase in glycogen, and so then that leaves me with over that month another 2 pounds, which is what I will be looking for initially as my aim in weight to gain for a gaining phase, 2 pounds a month. But then as I get towards kind of heavier weight, I'm going to look towards putting on maybe a pound a month. It's like speed. It's easy to get up to 100 miles an hour, but then over 100 miles an hour the resistance starts to get greater, and it takes more and more power to get through those different speed barriers. Like I said, things aren't linear, and it's the same with gaining. So it's going to be easier for me to go from maintenance to put on a good few pounds quite quickly, just by a quick surplus. But then when I get over those few pounds, I'm gonna have to start really working for it, and that comes down to my training and then incrementing my diet up nice and slowly to avoid putting fat on, because the body simply can't build muscle quickly, and I have to take that into account. So after that initial spike phase of going into a calorific surplus and the body loving it and and jumping on it, it's going to again level off. And when it's leveled off, which is usually around about a 3 or 4 week period, I have to start really being careful with the calories, and again looking in the mirror, looking on the scales, taking averages and judging, you know, is my body still flying high, or is it now plateauing off, and you know, my metabolic rate settling down. And then you have to start getting careful. You can't just keep gaining the same week to week to week, because it's not going to happen. You can't build muscle quickly, and it will just be fat if you keep pushing too hard too fast. And once you understand that your body will settle down at a 3 to 4 week period, you have to look in the mirror and think, am I looking a little bit softer here around the edges? Because 3 or 4 weeks in, you shouldn't be. You should still be looking really good and lean. You know, you should be looking good and lean for at least a good 6 to 8 weeks into your gaining phase. If you're plobbing out, bearing in mind, you're going to be in this gaining phase for months and months. This is the problem. People try and put themselves through a gaining phase for 12 weeks. You can't achieve anything in 12 weeks, building muscle wise. To build muscle, you have to increase the size of the fibers. Then you have to maintain that increase in size through stimulus of your training, and then support it through your diet. You then have to embed that new size of muscle fiber and make your body want to maintain it by keeping your training at that new, now higher level, and also by keeping your calories up. Then you have to step up again, create more stimulus to then increase the size again, then embed it by keeping it supported and the training again progressive, which is what a lot of people don't do. What they do is they jump a little bit, their training's really good for a while, then they have a dip in training, a dip in their diet, or a dip in their consistency, and then all of a sudden they get back on it and pile the calories straight back up again. You can't do that. If you take your foot off the gas, you have to only increase again another really slow rate. You can't just jump back to where you were. You've got to increment back up and in, and it's really slow, and it's a really mentally draining process, because I know you will want to be quick and you want to get there, but the truth behind it is it takes years to develop real size, and that's what people don't understand. So after, people think a year is a long time to be training. It's nothing. That's like learning to crawl. What people don't understand is people like myself. Matt Ogus has been training now, over a decade. I've been training myself 16 years. 16 years. That's an entire person's childhood and teen life. So these are things you really have to understand and take into account. You can achieve a lot in a 3-year period. You really can. You can change your body completely, but you can also lose everything you've done in 3 years very easily. But if you keep it up for 5 years, 10 years, that body then just becomes yours. So now for me, where I'm at, it's very easy for me to kind of maintain a lot of my muscle mass with a fluctuated maintenance level, because my body's used to holding the muscle. I've kept it at a very good standard, for a very long time. So it becomes more difficult to accidentally lose it, whereas when you've got these fresh gains that the body's not embedded, not held on to, not being progressive with over years, it can be stripped very easily. And that's something to remember. So again, remember guys, a lot of us that you're watching, and we've been training over a decade, and it makes a huge difference when you're 18 years old or in your early 20s comparing yourself, and you've only been training since you were 18 or 17 and you're only now 21. 4 years, it seems like a long time to you, but I promise you in this game that's just the beginning. So in conclusion, what I want you to know is, can you burn fat and gain muscle at the same time? Yes, under certain scenarios you can, but it is a finite occurrence, meaning it is short term and it is not long lasting. So can you do that over time for a long period of time? No you can't, unless you take drugs. That is the only time that will continue to happen, and the reward versus the risks isn't worth it, guys. I know it might seem it because things come quick, but look at those guys later down the line. Very rarely do they still look good. Very rarely do people who go down that path in your local gym, look at them a year later, most of them are an absolute mess, because they take drugs rather than sort out their diet. So all the drugs ever do is buffer the errors in their diet, and then when they come off, all the errors that were once there are still there. They were just masked, by the fact they were using illicit substances. So they're never ever going to stay progressive. They're never ever going to maintain what they achieve, and that is a simple fact. So stick with it. Understand it just takes time. Understand that you have to have realistic goals, and that you just stick with it. And that also, once you're moving forward, if you get something wrong partway down the line, it's not going to send you backwards. It's just going to keep you where you are until you fix that error. but it's not going to undo the good work that you've put in, even in a cut. So say you diet too hard too quickly, and then you plateau out and can't lose weight. Doesn't mean that if you suddenly have to put your food back up that you're going to put back on all that fat you just lost. No, that's not the case. What you'll do is, if you do it correctly and increment your food back up, your body will just come back online, and then you'll get back into the fat burning stage. Then you go back and you correct that error and you move forward. That is the thing. It's not a night and day situation, this changing your body. It's a long-term goal with long-term solutions rather than short-term shortcuts. I hope that helps. I hope it's clear. It is very difficult to kind of talk about this in basic terms and not get confusing, because there's a lot of information available on the subject, and all you have to do is research it yourselves, guys, online. Just go and look, go and read about it. But that is the basics. So at least you now have the foundational kind of attitude and details to work off, to understand when you set yourself goals, how long it's going to take you, and giving yourself those realistic timelines will make you more successful. Having a realistic timeline to a realistic goal set in the timeline you give yourself will increase massively increase the chance of you achieving that goal. Your support is always appreciated. The love is real. Appreciate everything you do for me, my crew. If you like this video, hit a thumbs up, help share the love. So I hope that helps, guys, and I will catch you in the next video. Boom, baby.
I've been away for so long, but like the winds of the summer weather, I am back and I'm even better. Wow, nothing can break up this bond.
I need to breathe when I talk. I think I speak so quickly, I physically can't breathe and speak. He's kicking up a lot of crap. You can smell it. You can smell it.